Rosie the Riveter, A Compromise in History. A conflict arose in America in 1941. The effects were tremendous, but what was life before that? The Great Depression had already been going on before World War II for several years in America. Many suffered greatly from starvation, homelessness, and lack of hygiene. The Great Depression was a large factor of life before World War II, but a significant difference in society took place before and after World War II. And it was within jobs. Women were not expected to work, earn jobs, and especially provide for their families. Little was expected of them when it came to work. But soon, their roles would change. And this huge change began with the World War II starting in 1941, when Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japanese aircrafts. Within the week of the bombings, America declared war on Japan, Italy, and Germany. America entered World War II. Millions of men were sent to war. This left the few citizens at home to provide the much-needed war supplies for the military. This left the government with one option that many overlooked, and that option was a huge solution to the country's needs. As a fulfilling solution, women were encouraged to join the workforce. This was in order to produce enough supplies for the military. Joyce Butler tells the story of her mother, Doc Kelly, as a real-life Rosie the Riveter.
After the divorce, there wasn't much money. So my mother worked in a laundry in different places, and she finally got a job at Montgomery Ward's department store. And these young women would come in all dressed in these big boots and these kind of rough overalls, and they would have checks of $600 to cash. And she finally asked one of them, "Where do you work that you make so much money?" And they said, "In the shipyard." So my mother went over, and the man who interviewed her said, did she want to be a welder or a burner? And my mother said, "Which pays the most?" And he said, "A welder." And she said, "That's what I want to do." And he said, "Oh, mercenary, huh?" And she said, "No, I have 4 children to take care of." It was bitter cold in the winter going into the bowels of those steel ships. They had to wiggle into narrow crawl spaces and lay on their backs and weld overhead. And I remember her neck and her chest here, all spotted with burn marks from the sparks. And her shift was midnight to 6 a.m., so she could be home with us during the day. I remember her dressing in the heavy clothing, men's clothing. Once she fell and hurt her ankle, and they brought her home in the middle of the night, and she was weeping. I remember that. After the shipyard closed, she needed to have 2 jobs to make enough money. And we kids were more or less on our own, and that was not a happy time. But still, she was determined.
Women occupied many difficult jobs, such as welders, which increased the percentage of women in the workforce to 30%. Many women had followed the Rosie's example. Women's participation in the U.S. labor force has climbed since World War II, from 32.7% in 1948 to 56.8% in 2016. One modern-day example of the change Rosie the Riveter's brought is Hillary Clinton, who had a successful career, and in 1993 she became First Lady. In 2000, Hillary announced her plans of running for New York Senate and got elected that year. In 2016, she became the first woman to run for president, and many women have shown empowerment and feminism as shown here. Rosie the Riveter. Rosie the Riveter is just an icon for all the women who have served their country in World War II by helping manufacturing supplies for the military. Rosie the Riveter is a compromise, a solution for the need of supplies during World War II. Today we are able to see the huge change between the workforce from the early 1900s to our current day. Unlike before, women now are given an opportunity to make an impact in today's world. The significant legacy of Rosie the Riveters has impacted not just America, but the world.